Hey everybody, this is Dave Dugdale, learningdslrvideo.com, and I'm really excited. I got to play with both the Nikon D800 and the Canon 5D Mark III. I put them through their paces. I took them just about everywhere I could possibly go in lots of different lighting situations, from cloudy to mixed lighting, extremely low light, swimming pools, even time lapses, comparing skin tones, slow motion, landscapes, and I think I found some pretty interesting stuff that nobody else is talking about. Like most of you, I've been waiting for the Canon 5D Mark III to come out for quite a while now, but now that Nikon has really stepped up their game in terms of video, I've really got two cameras to consider when stepping up to a full-frame camera. If you're an amateur like me wanting to step up to a full-frame camera, this comparison is definitely for you because I'll be talking it more from an amateur level. This is by far the most comprehensive, thorough comparison I've done of two cameras, and the reason is because I'm going to be buying one of these two cameras. First off, both of these cameras have their pluses and minuses. They're both full frame, they have dual card slots, SD and CF, 100% viewfinder coverage, weathered sealed body, both have a somewhat similar continuous shooting speed, both have excellent autofocus systems, and now both have headphone jacks. The differences are the Nikon has a built-in flash, the Canon doesn't. Nikon has uncompressed clean HDMI out, which is really nice for monitoring and recording, which I'll get into more later. The Canon does not. Nikon has 36 megapixels and the Canon has 22 megapixels. First off, we gotta talk about Nikon's 36 megapixel sensor. You get amazing resolving power. Look at the kids up on the hill. Now let's zoom in. That's just amazing. I've not done any prints with this, but if you're a landscape guy, this might be the camera for you. I'm finding that the average D800 raw file size is 2 to 3 times larger than Canon's, so watch out for your hard drive. But on the flip side, the video using the all-eye compression with the Canon is much larger than the typical Nikon movie file. So a 25 megabit movie file for the Nikon would mean 100 megabit for the Canon. I know a lot of my audience watches these videos on their iPad or iPhone, so I'll try to point out things that you might not be able to see on those small devices. This video is done in 1080p, and if you want to watch all of this uncompressed, you can download the video from Vimeo before Vimeo or YouTube compresses it. Alright, all those megapixels on the Nikon come at a price, and that price is noise. And pretty much, both cameras are pretty much equal because at 1080p, they've got the exact same resolution. So having a 36 megapixel camera, for video in this case, doesn't really help the Nikon much. In fact, I think the 36 megapixel sensor on the D800 really hurts it badly when you compare it to the low light performance on the Canon 5D Mark III. In this shot, which you could never even dream of attempting on my Canon Rebel, on the 5D Mark III it looks very usable and the Nikon looks totally unusable. Now I'm pretty sure I'll never shoot in the dark like this, but for example when I used it at an adventure rope place, I used a really high ISO from about 1600 to 6400 pretty much the whole entire time because I was shooting for slow motion with a high shutter speed. Even though this was not a super low light situation, it was amazing to be able to shoot at such high ISOs and getting great coverage. You can see here on the wall in the bar, it's a bit more noisy with the Nikon at ISO 1600. And here a bit more noise at 4000. And it was amazing, I wasn't even using the noise reduction for both Nikon or Canon for the high ISOs. It pretty much helps out just a little bit in terms of the noise. While Canon's low light performance has me really excited on what I can shoot, I saw something on the D800 that made me equally excited. Before I play you the up and down swipe of this next clip, I'm going to pause it right in the middle. Now look at the guy in the swimming pool and the exposure on his skin, and also look at the tiles on the floor where the sun is in the middle, and they pretty much have matched exposure. Now watch the swipe. Wow, did you see that? Now watch it again. Now look at the wall behind the girl. You can see into the shadows a lot better with the D800. Look at the dynamic range, or I believe what the correct term in video language is latitude for the Nikon. Now look at the tree on the right side and look into the shadows. a lot better on the Nikon. Now look at my black shirt with the D800 and how you can see so much more detail on it. I would rather have a good flat image that I can start with rather than having an image I have to try pulling the shadows out of. To me, the D800 is the perfect image. It's not too flat, which is a bear to expose for and looks like crap on display. It's just right for an amateur like myself. Alright, so you're probably wondering what settings I'm using. I'm using the neutral picture style on both cameras with the contrast turned all the way down. Okay, both of these are from the Canon. On the left side you'll see Canon's neutral style, and on the right the Cine style, which is designed for the Canon 5D Mark II, not the 3. Now on the right you can see I added a little contrast back into the shot to make it look more like the D800's neutral style, which I like. I would rather have Nikon's image right off the bat than trying to play with Canon's image with the Cine style, trying to make it look good in post. Finally, let's compare the Cine style treated with the D800's neutral style. I think I got them pretty close. As you can see, the 5D has a little bit more noise, and it took a lot of work to get there. Just a big win for Nikon in this one. I also took a few pictures from that night shoot. The first set is the raw photos for both cameras. When I zoom in, you can see the level of detail that the Nikon has on this one. Just look at the roof tiles. And the next set is both cameras in JPEG mode to see how the camera does with the compression. Again, the Nikon wins here. I've never been a fan of how Canon oversaturates the reds. Perhaps it gives better skin tones, but sometimes I need to grab a secondary color corrector to fix oversaturated shirts. I know my daughter's red shirt here is much more faded than what Canon is actually showing. Next, we got to talk about Nikon's white balance issues. Since you can see there's a lot of difference in color between the two different shots. The auto white balance in the Canon appears to be far superior. While Canon tends to be a little bit more magenta, Nikon seems to go way too far to the greens for my taste. I shot the same digital calibration target with both cameras set on custom white balance. I noticed that Nikon's display had a green tint, so I did another shot, but this time I shifted the white balance away from green. When I brought the two shots into Lightroom, I used a white balance eyedropper tool, and the Canon was really close. But Nikon's first shot was way too green, and I had to correct for it. And the second shot, where I did the white balance shift away from green, was much closer. When you're looking at these images, that's why there's such a difference in color. When it comes down to it, I think it would be really difficult to do a shoot with both the Canon and the Nikon, because I think in post you'll be like pulling your hair out trying to get the colors to match. I also took these cameras to the worst place I can think of in terms of lighting, and that's my girl's gym. It has so many different nasty lights in it. Yeah, the kind of ones that if your shutter's too high, you get this nasty yellow banding. I had no problem using the custom white balance with the Canon, but the D800 I just couldn't get the white balance correct. I had to spend so much time correcting the Kelvin and the white balance shift. Here are both after I finally got the D800 set somewhat correctly, but I still didn't get as close as the Canons. I also gave my friend Jake Nielsen, who shoots weddings, both the Canon and the Nikon, to play around with for a while, and he also had the same white balance issues I was having with the greenish tint. Alright, before I move on to sharpening, I want to tell you about, I got 3 bonus videos on my site, like 7 tips for getting tack sharp DSLR video. So definitely check them out. Next, we need to talk about sharpness. I quickly found out on the Nikon side that you really have to turn the sharpness all the way down, off in-camera sharpening, because of the aliasing on the Nikon. I mean, look at the trees. Look how they light up with aliasing, which is just plain nasty. If you're watching this on an iPhone or an iPad, you're probably not going to notice this. You really have to watch this at 1080p. So all of my tests that you're seeing here, both cameras had the sharpness turned all the way off in camera. And as you can see in this shot of the fence at the ski resort, the clear winner is the Canon in terms of the aliasing and moiré. I did a corporate video with the Canon 5D Mark III, and I did it in the data center, lots of B-roll, there was a lot of metal mesh inside the racks, which caused a lot of moiré, especially in older Canons. While you can still kind of see it on the 5D Mark III, I thought it was acceptable, and I actually used it in the corporate video. In terms of the sharpness of the actual camera, I don't think I can really comment on that, since both lenses were very different. I tried to use an adapter to take the Nikon lens and put it on the Canon, but I had a really bad experience with that. So I'm using 2 different lenses, that are similar price range and seem to be sharpness wise about the same. I took a lot of shots of my girls with both of these cameras at 1.4 on the swing, standing right behind them as they swing in and out. And I gotta say, both of the autofocus systems on both of these cameras are excellent. Maybe the Canon was a little bit better in terms of the success rate on how many photos in a row I had that were actually in focus. However, I didn't try all the different options in terms of the autofocus system because there's a ton of them. So I really can't give you a well-defined answer on which one's better. All right, hands down, the Nikon wins when it comes to the HDMI signal out. Now, for me, I have more of a run and gun style, so I don't really think I would ever use an external recorder, but where I'm doing more of collaborative videos, a lot of people want to see the display, and since the display is so small, plugging it into an external monitor definitely helps. So in terms of that, I'd say Nikon definitely wins here. When I'm shooting stills, I mostly shoot RAW. I hardly ever do JPEG. So I wanted to do a comparison of the two cameras of which one, how many photos I could take consecutively or continuous shooting in a row before the buffer would fill up or the card would give out. Now I'm using the exact same SD card for both of these tests. First up is the Nikon, and it took 16 shots in 4 seconds. What the bummer was is I couldn't take another photo for 2 whole minutes after that while I waited for the green light to turn off and the buffer or the card to be written to. I don't know which one it was, but 2 minutes. I could not do anything. I couldn't press it. Nothing would happen. However, on the Canon side, the Canon took 15 shots in 5 seconds, which is a bit slower, but as you listen, it just keeps going and going and going until it finally stops. But if I just waited a few seconds after it stopped, it would start up again with the very slow shots every 3 seconds. Now I'm using a 2-year-old Class 6 card, so the new cards might not really have this issue, but I thought I'd definitely point this out. If you're using the Nikon, don't do a big burst and expect to be able to use the camera for 2 minutes. Probably a faster card might be less time than that. I love the new HDR mode that Canon has with the camera that takes 3 exposures and combines them in camera. And it'll leave you the raw images and then combine the HDR into a JPEG. The first 2 presets are awesome and they do a great job. And I suck at photomatics. So the success rate that I've had with this camera shooting HDR has gone way up compared to doing HDR with photomatics. Usually my success rate sucks at that one. So a big win for Canon on the HDR side. So the Canon wins ever so slightly in terms of noise for the preamp audio recording. I would pretty much actually call them a tie. But if you use a cheap $99 recorder from Zoom, the H1, and you compare it to the cameras, the Zoom totally blows the water out of these preamps built into the cameras. If you want to listen to the comparison of the two, watch my video right here. I almost don't want to talk about rolling shutter because both of these cameras are terrible still. Just how bad? Look how these $3,000 cameras compared to my iPhone. Yeah, they're really not that different. For all these tests on the Canon side, I used the all-I compression. While I found that the IPB compression does a great job at creating small file size, it works pretty well up to 1600. But after that, the IPB compression gets a bit noisy. If you punch in zoom to focus like I do a lot, then the Canon is a clear winner here. On the Nikon, it has some sort of weird jittery staccato look to it. Maybe it's a frame rate issue when you punch in. You can watch my full video here. Definitely the Canon wins here because on the Nikon it can be very distracting while you're trying to focus. The Nikon, you can't change the audio levels while recording like you can with the Canon. Alright, a couple minor issues. I'm not a big fan of Canon's mode dial lock switch. I don't know why people bump that, but I don't know why they put that there. And I'm also not a big fan of how to switch modes on the Nikon either. And worse yet, I'm not a big fan of where they place the video record button on the Nikon. I shot a lot with these cameras side by side for video, and I can tell you that the batteries last just about the same. It was surprisingly how similar they were. And they also could recharge about the same as well. Since the light leak issue has been fixed on the Canon, I really didn't test for this. And it sounds like Canon just fixed it with a bunch of black tape inside the camera. Also, at the time I'm publishing this video, Nikon's come out and said that there is an issue with the focus viewfinder for the D800. And I gotta say, I've never had any of these problems with the D800 that I have. So in conclusion, on the Canon side, I'm really glad they fixed the moiré issues, and the low light performance of this camera is just insane. I'm really enjoying the headphone jack, but I wish they gave us 1080 at 60 frames per second and a tilt-out screen. For the Nikon, I'm really excited about all the latitude you get in the neutral picture style. I'm not really crazy about all the white balance issues, however, with the Nikon. With the Nikon, and maybe I'm just an amateur and maybe I don't know how to custom white balance, but it was just pure murder trying to get that thing to white balance correctly compared to the Canon, which does it quickly, really fast. So both of these cameras are excellent. If you're a Nikon shooter, stay with the Nikon. If you're a Canon shooter and you're invested in glass on the Canon side, stay with Canon. I myself personally only own 2 lenses. I own a cheap $100 lens I bought for Canon. I got a $250 lens I bought used on eBay, zoom lens. So I'm really not invested that much in glass, and the reason I'm not is I've been waiting for these full frame cameras to come out to test them, to decide which way I want to go. Before I tell you which camera I'm going to buy, and if you want to help me support my site and me make more videos like these, go to my site and go to my gear page and click on a link there before you purchase something. It definitely helps support me and make more videos like this so I can buy more kind of cool toys so I can show you guys what I'm doing. And those that are worried about me getting rid of my T2i, I'm always going to have some version of a crop sensor camera, so definitely don't worry about that. So after I was done with all my testing, I was going to activity with my girls, and I grabbed the Canon instead of the Nikon. And the reason I grabbed it is I was going into a situation where I had no idea what the lighting was going to be like, and I'm glad I did because the lighting was really poor. And I actually wanted to shoot slow motion, so I was bumping the shutter speed up to 1/25 of a second, which allowed less light into the camera, so I could really push those ISOs. And I was going from 1600 to 6400, and the images came out amazing. And that's why I'm going with the Canon 5D Mark III, is because I can push those ISOs really high. I'm an available light shooter. If I was somebody that shot in controlled lighting all the time, I would have gone with the D800. Also with the Canon, I don't have to worry about the aliasing and moiré like I do with the Nikon. And also the Nikon, I just got so frustrated with all the white balance issues. Again, I'm coming more from an amateur background, and maybe I'm doing something wrong there, but there's always that green tint I just couldn't get rid of. It was very difficult to get rid of. So that's why I'm going to go with the Canon. And pretty much in the end, when it comes down to it, I can still use the cine style, picture style, to get me somewhat close to where the D800's look is. So as for price, the Canon is $500 more than the Nikon. The Canon is right now is $3,500. I was really kind of disappointed with Canon when they came out with this number, because I was kind of expecting it to be around $2,500 or $2,700, and I'm sure that the price probably after this Christmas will drop to probably $3,200, be my guess. But I was really disappointed with that. But I'm just an amateur and I'm just starting to get some paid work, so that kind of justifies my decision to actually dish out all this money, which is a lot of money. So right, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this video useful if you guys are deciding which way to go. Again, I'm just an amateur. Take it or leave it. You know, you can watch somebody like Philip Bloom, which I'm sure is coming out with a video very similar to mine, and get his take on it. All right, that's pretty much it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.